friends, and welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 55. This is Friday, August 26th, 2022. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I'm glad you're joining me. I was AWOL last week. The previous week, many of you watched the little quilting video that I put up as a special edition that featured my friend Cindy and me in our quilting studio talking about some of our projects. Thanks for watching that. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll have another episode of that in another 2 or 3 weeks. We both have a lot going on coming up, so not sure when that will be. Also, you probably are noticing a slightly different angle of this camera. I don't know, my camera mount is being weird today. So sorry about that. But here we are back again. Flosstube, as you will recall, is about cross stitch primarily, and Variety Show is about something else. Now, we've had a busy last several weeks, and therefore I haven't actually done a lot of cross-stitching, and I don't have a ton of specific things to talk about in the Variety Show, so this might end up being a brief video, but I didn't want to let another week go by without checking in and saying hello. So let's talk about cross-stitch. The thing I've worked on the most in the past couple weeks is this piece, which is I wrote on the back what it is this time. It's sampler number 193 by 2x2 Stitch Art, which is a Ukrainian designer. I found this on Etsy, and I have been working on it, and you can see. So that heart is just my needle minder, but it's making its way up toward the edge. I'm not that far from the edge, the upper edge. And I was going to just go straight up there, but where my hoop was and so on, I just decided to carry on a little bit. I worked on this a lot because it's so easy to just pick up and put down because it's just one color and it's on Pattern Keeper, so it's very easy to keep track of where I am. I don't have to pull out a paper pattern and figure out and get a highlighter out or anything like that. So I've been working on that for a challenge called Battleship, which is a team challenge in Semi-Sane Stitchers this month, and I've been enjoying that. The next thing I will show that I've worked a little bit on is Eliza Stringer, age 6, and recall this is a sampler reproduction by Hands Across the Sea, and it was provided to people who are attending the Great British Sampler Weekend next year. And here's how far I am. So I did more letters. You see that the E and the H are in a tan color there. When I get down to the W, I'll put the W's in tan color also because those are my initials. And I will say, so this is 100.3 Au Ver A Soie silk in 3 colors, red primarily, and then I have a green, a tan, and a pink that I'm using that I just was able to find. You know, there's a supply chain problem, but I was able to find those several weeks ago. And it's 40 count linen. At one point I knew what it was. I don't have it written down. I like the result, and I don't hate stitching on the linen, but I have to say the silk is, between the linen and the silk, it's a little hard because both of those are new to me. And so I'm finding that I'm not sure my stitches are beautifully even, and I don't know. I think it's fine. It's fine. And it's going to be, you know, kind of cute when it's done. Tiny little sampler. But it's not my favorite thing I'm working on right now. Another thing I did was, so the friend who's visiting is the friend I'm making this purple sampler for. So it's been fun to show it to her in person because she hadn't seen it since I started. So this is the whole width of it, or height of it so far. And I finished these two borders down here, those two things. And I still plan to put some other things in here. Obviously, there's blank space. I have ideas about what's going to go in there. After this, I'm going to put another, probably a narrow border, and then maybe another border about that wide, and then do the small case, lowercase alphabet down here. And then put a couple borders, and then another smaller section of motifs, and then a few borders, and it will be done. So that's, I'm not sure I'm much farther than last time I showed it. I think I only finished those borders. I haven't made any new decisions since then. Then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is, I hesitate to call it a plan, because I think a plan needs to have some specifics to it that are a little greater than what I have. But I've shown you this before, Harriet Salt, 1866, Bristol Orphan sampler by Hands Across the Sea, reproduced by them. And Harriet Salt actually stitched this on 56 count linen. I'm not going to do that. No. But I've said that I think I might want to stitch this. And the thing as a whole, I've been using some elements from it in the purple sampler. Well, I joined Fox and Rabbit is a designer, it's a husband and wife, and they design cross stitch, they reproduce samplers, antique samplers, and they dye fabric. And this is 16 count Aida in their Hogbristle is the name of it. And it's really, I would say that that's coming pretty clear, pretty true to color in this particular light. It might be, yeah, I think that's pretty true to color. It's a nice sort of antique-ish sampler color, and it's 16 count Aida, and this doesn't have any stitches that can't be done on Aida. So I'm thinking I might do this on this fabric. And I was able to get this, I'm a member of their Patreon, and there was a special sale that was a direct sale rather than going through shops, which is how they sell most of their fabrics, is through shops around the world, not just in, so they're in Australia, and they sell fabric around the world. I don't have a local shop, as I've said before, so I do a lot of mail order from various places. But this I got directly from them, and I was really happy to have it. So I may use part of it for that sampler. I have a yard there that's in a full yard, and the sampler will not take that all of it, so they'll have plenty to do some other things with. So that's kind of interesting. Now, again, I say I can't call that a plan. Really, the only reason I'm mentioning it today is because I have the fabric that's new. So if we can call it a plan that I'm going to stitch that Harriet Salt on that fabric sometime in the future, then that's a plan. We'll call it that. So that is really all I have to show you about cross stitch. And there are a couple reasons. One is because we've been playing a lot of games and eating delicious food and that kind of thing while our friend is here. But the other really bigger reason is because when I have had time to do handwork, I've been working on the commission quilt that I've shown many times. And I'm going to put some pictures in because I finished the top. Maybe it was last week I finished it. And earlier this week, I put it on the our quilting machine at our studio that I showed in that other video, our APQS Lucy model, and used the quilting machine to baste it. Because one of the challenges with hand quilting, one of the things that takes almost as long as quilting it, is either basting it or pinning it. And it's a very large quilt. It's actually turned out to be about 94, 95 by 98. And that's pretty big. And then, so I basted it, and I have a picture of it on the frame there. You can see quite a biggest view that probably you've been able to see, that I've been able to show you. And then I brought it home and I put it on my hoop situation, which I'll show a couple pictures of. It's a big hoop. I think it's 24 inches or maybe 28 inches big. I don't know, kind of big. And it sits on a floor stand, which enables me to sit down and work on it. But it is not easy even so. For one thing, it's a large quilt. So there's a lot of quilt in my lap and quilt heaped around. Also, it's, the angle is just funny. You know, it's hard to get, it's a lot of adjustments to it. The hoop part turns so you can rotate it, and it tips back and forth on its primary axis. So it does have a lot of flexibility to it, but nonetheless, depending on what direction you're going, it may be awkward, and I'm finding it awkward, so I can't work on it more than maybe 45 minutes or an hour without standing up and stretching. And standing up from it is a challenge with such a large quilt, because I end up with a lot of quilt in my lap. Now, it is August in North Carolina. Today's high is forecast to be, I think, 91. Now, I have an air-conditioned house, so I'm not really totally worried about it. And I chose to use wool batting. And you may be thinking, oh, well, that's so hot, isn't it so hot? Well, actually, I believe that the wool batting is making it cooler. I made two really excellent decisions. I've made some poor decisions with regard to this quilt and some other aspects of my life, but I made two excellent decisions with regard to this quilt. One is that I have a 108 wide backing on it, meaning that it doesn't have any seams. So I don't have any seams in the backing that I have to think about or work around or work through while I am doing the hand quilting. The other is that I chose to get wool batting. And I did this because I'd done some reading about hand quilting, and the thin cotton batting that is very popular, that I love to use in quilts, is actually a little harder to hand quilt through than wool batting is, because it's denser, and so it puts up a little more resistance to the needle. Even though it's thinner, it's actually harder. So I thought, I'm going to make this as easy on myself as I can, and so I got a nice piece of wool batting, and it is quite nice. From that standpoint, it's easy. The actual stitching is not hard. It's the maneuvering, I guess, is hard. And I'm using 3 different colors of embroidery floss as my thread, and they are 3 of the colors that match the fabrics in the quilt, the medium ones, the 2 medium blues and the green, the medium green, not the light green. And those are really beautifully, slightly varying in the quilt as the quilting goes along, but not distracting. I think if I'd used the darkest blue or the 2 lighter colors of floss, it would have been distracting. And the only color I didn't consider at all was the purple, because in the selection of fabrics, the purple floss was an approximation. It was not the one she really wanted. She wanted a slightly different tone of purple than she found in floss. And so I picked a fabric that isn't exactly matching the thread. so I don't want to use the thread in the quilting. But I think it's going to be, I think it'll be nice when it's done. The quilt top turned out to be quite remarkably, I'll say even stunning. Her color selection and her design and layout really make that sparkle. More so than I thought, actually. I thought it would be, I didn't think it would be that nice, but it really is. And also, it's very hard when I've been working on it. Of course, I'm working on a small piece section of it, so I can't see the whole thing. So once it was done, especially when it was loaded onto the quilting machine, and I could see all of it at once, I was much encouraged and impressed with the overall thing. So my friend Joy has vision that I'm not sure I fully gave her credit for. So it's been very much a relief to get to this stage. I feel like I can probably finish it in good time, and we'll see what happens next. So what else is going on? Well, I have a game, you can't see it, but I have a game set out on the table that my friend and I will dive into soon. We plan to adjust the installation of the design wall in my sewing room upstairs, which she actually gave me as a gift for Christmas some years ago, maybe 12 or so years ago, maybe more. And I can't imagine how I ever could have gotten along without it, but it needs some fixing up in terms of how it's up there. So we'll work on that, and we'll probably do an escape room, and who knows. We have fun in store for us over the next week or so. And really, that's all I have to talk about today. So I hope that you have a great weekend, a great week coming up. Get a lot of cross-stitching done if that's what you're doing, or quilt making, or food eating. We should all do some of that, at least some of it, in the next week, I think. Game playing, whatever it is, hope you have a great week. And many blessings to you, friends.